In this section, we will discuss about grid connectivity and inspection procedures.
Well, Arvind, you have introduced us to the technology of solar PV system. You have taught us about the design aspects, what safety measures are there for a solar power plant. Now we as grid engineers, where do we fit in?
You have a very important role to play. First is of course approving the system application that the consumer does, but that is the least important work that you can do. Your major technical work starts after the consumer has completed the work, he has installed the system, and now he wants that system to be connected to the grid, to be synchronized with the grid. So there you need to come in on the site, inspect all the system, and only after that either reject or approve the synchronization to the grid.
When you say connected to the grid, where and how is it connected to the grid?
Different states have these state distribution codes, and the voltage levels to which the systems need to be connected are specified there. However, in reality what happens, as majority of the states have this net metering regulation, any system capacity which is installed within the premises of the consumer, that will be connected directly at the LT level, at the LT panel itself, what consumers also may call as meter panel, LT panel or distribution panel. So really speaking, if you take the location of the meter, the existing consumption meter, the interconnection of this system is happening on the consumer side of that particular meter. So really speaking, it is not on the grid side of the meter but on the consumer side, which is also called as internal grid of the consumer. So the AC output cable from the solar power plant, which has come out of the AC distribution box after the inverter, is now to be taken to the interconnection with the grid. So this is a consumer LT panel, which is the existing LT panel, to which the cable has come down from the installation site, and that is being connected with the grid at what is called as the meter. So here there will be a generation meter, and this is the interconnection point to the grid. This is a solar meter, or also what is called as generation meter. This is not the net meter. This particular meter will record all the power generated, all the energy generated from the solar power plant. So the incoming cable has come to the meter, this is inline meter, and the outgoing has gone to RCCB, another protection in the grid.
So I believe there might be standards set up for all this grid connectivity and integration. So could you please highlight what are those standards available for the interconnection, and which agency or organization is responsible for drafting these regulations?
Because we are talking about grid connected PV systems, the standards specifications of interconnecting these systems into the grid is decided by only one agency nationally, which is Central Electricity Authority, the CEA. So let's take example of some major parameters that CEA has put in. First, the voltage. So whatever rated voltage the system is connected into the grid, it can be 415 or even 230 single phase at LT level. Sometimes it may be also at ST level in various different cases like 11 kV or 33 kV. For each rated voltage, the system can keep on feeding into the grid only within a certain range, like 80% and 110% of the rated voltage. So if the voltage goes either below 80% or above 110% of the rated voltage, the system must stop feeding into the grid. Similarly, frequency, which is another major parameter of the grid. So CA guidelines say that between 47.5 Hz and 50.5 Hz, the system can feed into the grid. But if the frequency is going beyond these limits, the system should stop. So this is the range of the frequency given in the parameters. You can understand that even if inverter is converting DC into AC, there is always a possibility of some DC portion going into the grid, because there is no isolation transformer in these inverters. There is no isolation. So even that parameter has been set by CEA, that If the system is feeding more than 0.5% DC injection of the fully rated capacity of the system, then that system is not complying with the parameter. So that system needs to stop, and then the inverter needs to be improved upon. So this is the third parameter that has been stated by CEA.
So how do these systems respond in case of voltage, frequency, etc. are beyond these tolerance limits?
Inverter is the brain of the system. So any synchronization that happens with the grid is done by inverter. So all these parameters, as we discussed earlier, all these parameters are sensed as well as controlled, monitored by the inverter itself. So when any of these parameters goes beyond the permitted range, it is inverter who will sense that it is not within the range, and then it will shut off. It will stop generation of the system, it will stop feeding into the grid. This is also called as anti-islanding protection of the inverter. So anti-islanding protection in nutshell means what? It is when the grid is off, either physically put or manually put off, or it is off because of something else, the system immediately stops working. And that is because when the grid is off, the voltage, the frequency, these parameters go out of this particular range, and that's why the inverter stops. So this is called as anti-islanding protection, which is a built-in feature of any grid-tied inverter. What happens once it has stopped feeding into the grid? Even then, it keeps on sensing these two parameters, the voltage and frequency of the grid. And when these parameters again come back, when the grid again becomes stable or healthy, in that particular case, it waits for at least 60 seconds so that all these parameters are within the range for continuously 60 seconds, and only then it starts feeding again into the grid.
So no manual intervention is required to restart these systems?
Not at all. It is completely automatic. The disconnection, the connection, both are completely automatic and will happen exactly as per the standard, as per the design of the inverter.
So we are defining all these limits and the systems, saying that the system will shut off when we cross these limits. How do we test that the system is in range?
As I said earlier, the grid engineers come on the site when the system is installed, when the complete work is finished and the consumer makes an application to the utility or to the DISCOM. That time there are two stages of inspection that need to be done. First is component level inspections. At the time of application or even in the net metering regulation, there is a particular single line diagram, SLD, that is defined for net metered systems or for gross metered system, as the case may be. So first thing would be to see whether the actual installation is exactly complying with the SLD that has been decided or that has been submitted by the consumer, as the case may be. Second thing would be, there are also standards that each component need to meet, and there should be certificates. For example, for solar module there are some standards, for inverter there are standards, for cables there are standards. You will need to see a particular model that has been used in the system is certified, and that certificate is valid till the time of installation, because only then you can say and you can be sure that all the features, all the technical specifications as stated in the standard are really met with. So this is the first component level checklist, component level inspection that you need to do, for which you can prepare a checklist based on all the standards, and you can have also the documents submitted by the consumer and check that each and every standard is complied with. You will be submitted with all the kinds of fake certificates. Those certificates may not be pertaining to the model that has been used. Those certificates may have gone out of date, not valid at all. So these certificates should be really clearly checked and only then accepted.
No, but actually if we see that electrical inspector is doing all that work, he inspects and he is making all those tests. So do we really need to do it again?
Yes, definitely, you must do it again. There are two things you should remember. First, electrical inspector is not going to inspect and approve or reject each and every system. different states have put in different capacities only above which the electrical inspector's approvals are necessary. Otherwise, the grid engineer himself can inspect and reject or accept the system. That is one. So in that case, you don't have electrical inspector approval at all. But even in second case, where electrical inspector has done his work, you will again have to do, because that will be the stage when you will be doing this component testing, the functionality testing, but you will also be installing the net meter and actually synchronizing the system with the grid. So that is the stage which comes after electrical inspector has approved the system. Electrical inspector will see all the safety features, all the system design, all the SLDs are complied with and adhering to, but he will not really going to inspect what happens with the net meter or while synchronizing the system. So that is your work. But don't worry, this whole work on the site is not going to be more than 1 hour or 1.5 hours maximum.
So I'll just come back to an earlier point you highlighted about a anti-islanding feature of inverter. How exactly do we test that feature in the inverter?
So for doing this anti-islanding testing of the inverter, there is a, as you can see from the checklist, there is a complete process step by step given for you, and you should follow this process.
And what are the other functionality tests?
We said that the consumer will have done the earthing and also the lightning protection. So you will need to check whether the lightning protector that he has or lightning arrestor that it has been put up, it actually covers the whole array surface area so that it is really functioning and it is really diverting any lightning happening on that live surface of the array to itself. And then that particular lightning arrestor is earthed. So for each of the earth pits, the 3 earth pits that we discussed, you should also see what is the soil resistivity. The soil resistivity permitted for all the earthings in PV system is maximum 5 ohms. If the resistivity is more, that means the main purpose of providing this earthing, which is providing the lowest resistance path, that is not achieved. So there should be either a redone earth pit or you will have to improve on the earthing procedure that has been adopted. But unless this figure comes below 5 ohms, you cannot certify that earthing has been done.
So now that the functionality tests have been done, can I just go and commission the system?
Yes, but one major test also from the grid engineer's point of view is remaining, which is functionality of the meter. Because remember, you have now by now installed the bidirectional meter, which is also called as net meter, in place of the existing consumer meter. So this particular meter also needs to be tested. So what is the test for this meter? Because this is bidirectional meter, you will have to really check whether it records both flows of energy. So probably you will have to switch on all the load in the consumer premises and see that the import of energy from the grid is recorded. Put on all the load, or if the solar system is generating well, then reduce the load within the premises and see that some part of the generated energy is also exported to the grid. This is the same location where originally consumer meter was there, and the same consumer meter has been replaced by bidirectional meter, what is also called as net meter. So this particular meter is to be installed by the consumer under supervision of the DISCOM, or should be installed by the DISCOM engineer himself or herself. What needs to be checked here is this particular meter has been certified, calibrated in the DISCOM testing laboratory, and this will give you the reading for export, import every month, and the meter reader can make use of the readings from this particular meter for the commercial reasons of settlement. So this is the last commissioning test, after which you can directly approve the synchronizing of the particular system in the grid. So this date when you have approved this synchronization also becomes the start of the metering date for that particular consumer. Because please remember that after this, the new bidirectional meter will be recorded and his monthly bill will also be reflecting import, export, both the figures as well as the netting of that. So this is the start date of the metering and billing for the consumer as well. So this whole procedure will be there: one component testing and inspection, functionality testing and inspection, and commissioning testing including the meter testing.
And Arvind, do we have any checklist for all these tests?
There are two checklists, one for component so that no component inspection is left out. And another checklist which is for functional checking and functional inspection. So there are checklists, and these checklists you can refer. You should carry those checklists on the field, and then the signing off along with the consumer should happen on this particular checklist.